And welcome back to another episode of the All Out and Wobble and Jaw Sports collaboration into the 2026 club previews. I'm joined once again by the man himself, Sam. How are we, mate?
I'm doing really well. We are 1 week away, less than from the preseason actually kicking off, man. So very, very excited. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Sam. And as you can see on the right hand side here, we are covering the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs in this episode 14. So, look, without further ado, let's get into it, Sam. So, let's start with the 2025 review. So, we've got round one, same round one fixture as we see this year in Vegas, Sam. Dragons versus the Doggies. The Doggies came out on top, 28 points to 20 in round one. The Doggies then actually played at Belmore. That might have been, was that their only game at Belmore? I have a feeling that round two clash might have been the only game at Belmore in season 2025, which is a bit unfortunate. And I like seeing games at Belmore. But the Doggies too good at Belmore, 40 points to 24 against the Titans. They then went to Parramatta and were able to get the job done against the Eels, 16 points to 8. And they continued, made it the perfect month to start the season, Sam. 20 points to 6 over the Cronulla Sharks. Now, if we have a look at this throughout, let's go 2025. Let's go to round 4. You can see the Bankstown Bulldogs, Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs on top of the ladder with a perfect 4 from 4, Sam. Round 5 comes along. Newcastle comes to a core. The Doggies take care of them, 20 points to 0, Sam. Then they have the bye. So the first month and a half, the Doggies are technically 6-0 after the bye round. Some teams that we've discussed, Sam, recently have sort of faltered a bit coming back from the bye, but the Doggies did not. 32 points to 0 over South Sydney in round 7. Their first loss for the season came in round 8. And it was not just a loss, it was a heavy defeat. I think this was the reality check. You can sort of look at this, I think, from the start of the Bulldogs season. This was a bit of the reality check, I think, that they sort of needed, or potentially a loss that they needed. Maybe not a reality check, maybe just a loss that they needed or I don't know. It was very unexpected. I think the Bulldogs were favourites, if I consider myself correct, going into this game at Suncorp. They just, I actually remember it quite vaguely, but I remember it was a very special fixture for the Brisbane Broncos, and the Bulldogs just really were never in the contest, just did not look like the team that they had been in basically the first month and 3 quarters of the season. So through 2 months of the season, Sam, 7-1, technically 6-1 with the bye, but you get 2 points for the bye. So let's just say 7-1. That's a pretty good start.
It sure is, man. I'd give it like an A grade if I had to. When in that game against the Brisbane Broncos, anything that could have gone wrong did go wrong in absolutely torrential conditions. The Broncos' first half was arguably the best first half performance by any team of 2025, and the Dogs, to their credit, did win the second half, 18 points to 6 or 18 points to 4, with the final try for the Broncos coming inside the final minute of that contest. But this was a muchly anticipated contest for Anzac Day Eve, and this was totally unexpected the way that this game went, because the Doggies, they were undefeated, yes, they were on top of the ladder, but they really were the best team in the competition over the opening month and a half to 2 months, man.
So they had back-to-back games at Suncorp, the Doggies, Sam. So Magic Round came about, and they versed the Gold Coast Titans, and they took care of them with great ease, 38 points to 18 in favour of the Doggies. They then versed the eventual minor premiers down in Canberra, and this was a huge win for the Bulldogs, 32 points to 20. Pardon me. So that was a massive win to go down to Canberra, and they just put on a second half clinic. It was 20 points to nil at halftime, and the Doggies just came right over the top there to win 32 points to 20 in that clash. And we're looking at this, Sam. Through the first 10 rounds of the competition, the Doggies are 8-1, 8 wins, 1 loss, the best team by far in the competition. They then came up against the Roosters, and they were able to get the Chocolates 24 points to 20 in a close affair. But then it came to a Queensland team. Again, this time they took care of the Titans. The Broncos gave them a heavy defeat. And like I said, Queensland, their second defeat came to the Dolphins. 44 points to 8. That is the worst loss through the first. Well, they've only had 2 losses. That's by far the worst. At least they were able to score 18 points. They only scored 8 in this game against the Dolphins. Sam, have you got anything that you wanted to say?
Well,
Clash?
yeah. So this one was an Origin affected game as well. So there's a small excuse there for the Bulldogs. But interestingly enough, in that game against the Broncos and this one against the Dolphins, these were the only 2 wet weather games that the Dogs had played in all season up until this point, and they suffered 2 40-point losses at the hands of 2 Queensland teams, man. But just a small excuse there that this Dogs side, despite still sporting Sexton and Burton and Tracy and a few others in the forward pack, it wasn't an Origin-affected contest that was played in wet weather footy, and the Dolphins were superb, especially in that second half.
Yeah, you say about that as well, Sam, with like the Origin-affected game, and the Dolphins did a fair bit of that. Like they absolutely took the Cowboys to the cleaners as well in that Origin period as well. So, look, it wasn't just the Doggies that got, and it wasn't just the Doggies or the Cowboys or Origin affected games. The Dolphins were incredible, scored like 80 more points than second best overall. So their attack was firing. So, yeah, but still only 8 points regardless of who's playing in the NRL, Sam, is, I don't think Sorreldo would have been happy with 8 points, that's for sure. Let alone the 44 points conceded as well. Not the greatest for the for and against. But round 14, so they have the bye in round 13 after that loss. And they respond again 2 from 2 after the bye round, Sam. They take care of Parramatta, 30 points to 12. Round 15 comes along and they take care of South Sydney again for a second time, 24 points to 18 in that clash. They then have their round 16 bye, and unfortunately they can't go for 3 from 3 after the bye rounds because they go down to the Penrith Panthers, 8 points to 6 in a low scoring affair in round 17. Now, that was not Origin affected, was it? Was that there could have been some players? No. See, that was not the Origin affected game. So the Dogs were full strength there and they went down 8 points to 6. This game, however, was Origin affected against the Broncos. This game, the Dogs were the better team for about 60 minutes of this clash. And then it just turned 59 minutes. And then it just crapped the bed again at halftime. And it's the second time. Oh, well, if we look back to that Raiders clash, Sam, they were the ones that put on the second half clinic. But we're seeing a bit of a changing of the guard here where they're the ones that now have been conceded to a second half clinic. In saying that, though, the Broncos did this to many teams at the back end of the competition after that Manly loss. So while it was Origin affected, you would argue that the Broncos were more affected but through Origin than the Dogs. What, Haas, Carrigan, Shibasaki, Stags, was he in that, or was Stags in that game?
Stags was in.
Stags was in. Yeah, no, Walsh. I'm looking at this team, what the Dogs had.
Yeah, and then the Bulldogs, they had Matt Burton playing in at the centre, Sexton and Galvin in the halves as well. Jake Turpin starting at lock, and Jack Todd, I believe this was his debut game off the top of the dome. But yeah, I agree. The Doggies were absolutely all over him inside the first 50 to 60 minutes, man, and they just switched off. Really, credit, not taking anything away from the Broncos, man. But yeah, no, it was maybe a bit of a season turner, this loss, mate.
We had Boost Juice Smoothie at prop. That is speaks volumes. Anyway, let's continue. So look, that wasn't good considering such a dominant first half performance, Sam, and they just lost it in that last 20 minutes. The Broncos went on a streak, and yeah, you said it was a turning point potentially for the Dogs in a bad way, but it was, in my opinion, one of the highlights of the Broncos season for me, the regular season. That victory, the baby Broncos came back to strike again, Sam. But we moved to round 19 and they head up to North Queensland. I want to get your thoughts just quickly on this one, Sam. 12 points to 8, they were able to beat the Cowboys.
No, don't bother, mate. I didn't watch this game, to be perfectly honest with you. All I heard was bad reports that this was a bit of a lower quality affair and that the Cowboys did themselves in with all the errors and stuff, but the Bulldogs were also susceptible to the errors as well, man. So it was a low-scoring, gritty affair that wasn't all that quality, but the Bulldogs were able to defend their way to a victory here. 65%, there you go.
Yeah, completion stats were not good from either team. But what I'm trying to say is here, do you think that it's potentially like they've taken a turn here with this Broncos loss? Look,
well, I might have jumped the gun just a fraction, mate, because if we keep on moving forward, there is a game coming up in the next couple of weeks that I think may have been the true season turner for them, mate. The loss against the Broncos wasn't good, but there was another loss coming up shortly that really dented their confidence, I feel.
What was the game that Lachlan Galvin played his first game?
It was the King's birthday game against the Parramatta Eels.
This one here? Or
no,
this one. This one here. Round 14. Yeah, that's right. He scored. Okay. So Galvin has arrived here, round 14. Okay. They've gone 1 win, 1 loss, another loss, another loss, and then a win. So they're 2 and 3 through 5. They then come to the round 20 clash against the Dragons, and they just take care of that to square it up for Galvin. So in 6 games, 3 wins, 3 losses, 20 points to 18. Round 21 came along, and they found something, the Bulldogs, in this clash. 42 points to 4, they beat Manly in a huge win for the Doggies. But the celebrations were kept short as they went down to the West Tigers in a huge upset. The Tigers took down the Doggies 28 points to 14. A huge, huge win. So what's that? Is that now 4 and 3 or 3 and 4? Sorry, 3 and 4, I think.
Ish. Yep.
Yeah, 3 and 4. Then they respond against the Warriors in the first round of Indigenous round at home. They win 32 points to 14, so square it back up at 4 apiece, so 50%. in the second week of Indigenous Week, round 24, they unfortunately go down to, look, let's be honest, the red hot Sydney Roosters at this point of the season. They finished the season really hot, the Roosters. And look, the Doggies, yeah, wasn't going too great. And they didn't really respond the week after either, unfortunately. Yes, it was a close game, a close affair, but they went down to the Storm 20 points to 14. Then comes round 26. They put a number on a depleted Panthers team. They did what they needed to. So I think we're about, if I'm looking at this correctly, I think we're at one game in the negative for Galvin. And then it goes to 2 games, I think, in the negative. With the last round of the season, the Bulldogs, I don't think, had any position that they could, or well, any positions to be made on the ladder, but they played a pretty full strength team, or close to full strength, or it might have been full strength. They went down to Cronulla, 24 points to 6. Look, not the greatest last month against some quality opposition, Sam. Went down to the Roosters, 32 points to 12. Went down the Storm, 20 to 14. Much better performance. We're able to handle the Panthers, but we know that the Panthers rested basically all their players in this game. And then to end the season, when they're trying to find something come finals time, they go down 24 points to 6. I guess if I look back on the Bulldogs' regular season as a whole, wow, it was one hell of a start. But at the back end of the season, when you need to string together victories, it was very inconsistent. And a couple of really big blowout scores, which coming into the finals was definitely a concern, Sam, that how this team had transpired. Now, do I blame solely Lachlan Galvin for this issue? I don't think I can blame the individual. I don't think I can blame Lachlan Galvin himself. But it wasn't just Lachlan Galvin. There was a multitude of changes from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs at the back end of this season that I don't know for you, Sam, but for me, it definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. Certainly raised mine. There was the dropping of Reed Marnie and then the benching of Reed Marnie. There was, if we're going back further, that was more at the back end of the season. If we're going back towards the start, the whole, okay, let's go get Lachlan Galvin when Sexton's got us, doing so well. I don't hate going and getting Galvin, but like then the problem is all the media and all the press is like, where does Galvin fit in? And then it sort of took away from Sexton, and there was a bit of look, he was probably close to re-signing with the club, and then, Galvin came along, and I just think it was all really poorly organized from the club itself. I think these issues or these little things could have waited till the end of the season. They could have got Galvin at the end of the season. I know things with West Tigers weren't going that great, but I think it sort of disrupted a little bit what they had going on. And then don't get me started on the Reed Marnie stuff, because to me, that was just the only positive from that all is that Bailey Hayward got some experience playing hooker and starting at the back end of the season. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Bailey Hayward, but Reed Marnie is way better than Bailey Hayward. He has that kicking game that was handy out of dummy half for the Dogs. And he's just got that experience, Sam. He's got that dog in him that Reed Marnie does. He works his backside off, and, he agitates the opposition. He's exactly what the Bulldogs need, and I think what they missed in this back half of this back quarter bit of the season. Yes, Reed Marnie's now been moved on, and that's sort of, I think it's, I'm not having a go at Gus Gould, but like I feel like the whole like recruitment a bit maybe aimed at Cameron Sorreldo and potentially when, going to get these type of players and, these ruthless axings or whatnot. Yeah, it could be beneficial for this year, but God, man, the Bulldogs were exceptional to start the season. I know some Dogs fans, and they were so excited with how their team was going. They went and got like grand final tickets. That they were that excited, with what was happening out of Belmore, man. And then the back half of the season just it was just I don't know. It was just so many different little like look, there were only like a few changes, but I feel like they were major changes to what they were doing. And I just don't think it helped them at all. So for me, it's just a real what if like season for the Bulldogs. Like, what if they kept everything how it was just for the whole season? You know, what would have happened? Because they were firing. And outside of Crichton getting injured, the thing we're going to touch on shortly in the finals, they had some other injuries throughout the season, but man, oh man, they had just such a good team. They were playing so well, and I just think these little tweaks, little changes that they've done has sort of undone their really solid start to the season. Sam, what are your thoughts on the regular season for the Doggies?
Lachlan Galvin really wasn't going to come until this year, until 2026. But Gus and Seraldo, they pulled the trigger and took the gamble. Sexton was loved by his players. The fans got around Toby Sexton. And then Galvin came in, and it was pretty graphic. It was either the finals game or it was the round 24 or 5 game against the Melbourne Storm, where the moment that Lockie Galvin came onto the paddock, he was targeted immediately by the Melbourne Storm. And he just, it was a massive disruption, mate. And then the stuff with Reed Marnie as well wouldn't have been a good environment or a good atmosphere there for a number of weeks, if not months there. We saw footage of him going into the dressing sheds at halftime or thereabouts and then whipping off his headgear and then whipping it down in frustration, man. And the Bulldogs fans were venting that frustration as well. So there were a lot of bold, ballsy moves there by Seraldo and Gus, and they did not pay dividends. They still made the top 8, but they lost momentum halfway through that year. Sorry, top 4, but nonetheless, they lost momentum halfway through that year, and they paid for it in the end eventually. Man, it just became too much of a distraction. The media spotlight was absolutely enormous on the club from about May onwards, really. And I just think it took a toll on absolutely everybody coming into week 1 of the finals. But in saying that, the Doggies, whilst they weren't great form and they beat a C-string Panthers side, their efforts, despite a lot of things going wrong against the Storm, the Bulldogs nearly pipped them, man. It was a really good effort against the Storm.
Yeah, it was. They went down 26 points to 18. And you also got to consider that Stephen Crichton got injured in the early parts of this game. So the Panthers game wasn't as strong as the Storm result. But I think it's just it was just such a, like they made the top 4. They only made the top 4 due to their start of the season. Like their start of the season was so good that they just got themselves so far out in front. Then the Galvin stuff happened and, the changes to the team. And they sort of went like around 50% for the rest of the season, which then, that kept them basically in the top 4. The finals, I think it's just really disappointing. it's just like I said, I just described the whole season as a whole as like a what if. They showed great fight against Melbourne. Let's not beat around the bush there, considering with the Crichton injury and whatnot. And then to come at home in front of the Bulldogs faithful to score 26 points but concede 46. Do we think that Stephen Crichton is worth 20 points in defense? Like, I don't know. Stephen Crichton is one of the best centers, if not the best, in the game. Definitely a top 3 in my opinion. But is that something that, like, he's that big of a loss as well as his leadership qualities and whatnot, Sam? Or is I feel disappointed. Like, such a good season. It started off so well and it's just turned into a real disappointment, I guess, to finish the campaign, going around 50%, then come, fight like they're trying to get a groove for round 27. They go down heavily to the Sharks, and then they show fight against the against the Storm, pardon me. But then it was like they showed all their fight in that one game against the Storm, and they came out against the Panthers. And while their attack was, clicking a bit, their defense was not. Yeah, I feel upset for Doggies fans. A real what if season. Started so well and just finished so average, so poor. But I guess, we moved to 2026, Sam. But yeah, serious what if for the Bulldogs in 2025.
Yep, absolutely. That game against Panthers, they lost Crichton. They put Matt Burton in its center, and Matt Burton was outstanding in the game against the Melbourne Storm. He was absolutely enormous. And yeah, but in saying that, though, that Penrith side, the mode that they were in, the gear that they were locked in, bro, they would have beaten just about anybody on that day, especially in that first half. But it was a bruising smash mouth and counter throughout stages in that game against the Melbourne Storm, and they ran out of gas. It had been a huge year, and they just ran out of gas in the end, man.
Yeah, like they were the best defensive team, Sam, by a little while. Like, you look at it now, I've got it up here on the screen to the right of us, and you can see, the second best team were the Melbourne Storm with 459 points conceded. They 45 plus or 45 points better than any other team defensively. Their defense was great, but there's just a few blowouts there. And, the Broncos game, the Dolphins won. And then another couple, I think the Roosters won as well. But it's just their defense is really good. They're playing for the coach and everything. I just think their attack, if you look at their defense, they were the best defensively, but their attack is a little off, especially compared to the other teams. So, like, of the top 8, they had the second worst attack or points for from the top 8. The Dolphins had nearly 200 more points, just under 200 more points scored than the Dogs. So I think the defense leading into the 2026 season, which Sam and I are about to segue beautifully into, is their defense is fine, but they've got to find that continuity and that fluency with the halves and to score more points in season 2026, because we know they can defend. They play for each other. They're playing for their fans. It's just they need to fix their defense. Their attack, sorry. And that combination with Galvin and Burton is huge. That is going to, decide where the Bulldogs, finish in season 2026, is that combination between Galvin and Burton. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's segue straight into 2026, and let's have a look at the gains and the losses Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. And we'll start with the losses first, Sam. So Tom Amone came back to the NRL from the Super League, but it just didn't work out, unfortunately, for Big Tom. Drew Hutchinson, he was, look, he was a Mr. Fix-It when required. He did his job, nothing outstanding. He did start in previous campaigns, but didn't really play too much in 2025. Reed Marnie, probably up there with, or the biggest loss, I think, for the doggies. The Bulldogs lost, the Cowboys game. Curtis Morin, he just couldn't really get a crack. He'd get the occasional crack, but he played like maybe 1 or 2 games, if that, in season 2025. Good player, just with how the Bulldogs team is and the composition, it's just very hard for a player to get a crack, especially with, the rise of like Harry Hayes. Sam Hughes was good as well when he played. And then, you've got like Leo Thompson coming in. We'll touch on in a second. So, look, in terms of middles, you've got Curran there as well, Salmon. For, someone like Morin, there just really wasn't a consistent opportunity for him. So he moves to the Titans, where he definitely will play a lot more. If you didn't watch our Dragons podcast, we touched on Joseph O'Neill. So feel free to go and have a look at our thoughts there. But obviously not really much of a loss now, but it could be in years to come with his development. So not the worst. This is probably the second biggest, in my opinion, Toby Sexton. I thought he was outstanding. We just touched on it, the whole change and whatnot there with Galvin and whatnot. But Sexton showed his class throughout that whole period off the field. There would have been a lot of, he would have been like, how has this guy just come in and taken my spot considering I'm playing so well? I thought he handled himself tremendously well throughout the whole period. And yeah, I think he could be a real loss for the doggies. Luke Smith, we saw him make his debut the other week for the London Broncos. They've started the season red hot and firing, and then he's moving to the Perth Bears in season 2027. Ryan Sutton, look, he just had a heap of injuries at the Dogs, unfortunately, Ryan Sutton, and just one of those English players that came over and just didn't really find it, unfortunately. Look, he was solid at did he go to the Raiders? He started at the Raiders, yeah. So he's definitely, I think, a bit better at the Raiders than he was at the Doggies, but it was majorly due to at the Doggies he just was always injured or had issues. So we wish Ryan Sutton all the best over there. I think he's now playing in the Super League or something. I think he's playing for Bradford Bulls, I think, if I am correct, but I could be wrong. But I think that's where he is. Speaking of the Super League, Blake, or second division over in England anyway, this is Super League, is Blake Taff for the Castleford Tigers. So he's over there. I think Ravalawa was over there as well for Castleford. So there's a few NRL players from the 2025 campaign that are over there, doing their work for Castleford Tigers in the Super League. Wish Blake all the best. Look, handy utility, didn't really get much of a crack. I think he'll be great in the Super League. And then one of my favorites, one of my Bulldogs favorite players, but unfortunately has moved to the Manly Sea Eagles, Blake Wilson. Just unfortunately just struggled to get a crack behind the star-studded Bulldogs backline. Montoya was playing great. Kiraz is like outstanding. You've got, Rinakama coming through as well. Star centers in Sherry and Stephen Crichton Critter. It's just, yeah, unfortunately, I think, with Tommy Talau moving to the Roosters, I think this could be a good acquisition for the Manly Sea Eagles, and I'm sure Wilson will probably step in if there's an injury in the back line to the Sea Eagles. But yeah, for me, in summary, Reed Marnie and Toby Sexton, I think are massive losses, and I think they could get a miss. I think Blake Wilson's, being able to come in and fill in the back line like he did throughout his campaign at the Doggies. Look, very, very quality player. And I just think that, with Rinakama not coming back for a little while and his, development slash, TNT train and trial status, it's uh, it's a bit of a blow, I think, but definitely the main two, Marnie and Sexton. Sam, what are your thoughts on the losses from the Doggies?
You've just nailed it there, mate. 100%. Their two biggest losses, Sexton and Marnie. So yeah, no, I've got nothing else to add.
You do have something more to add, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Yes, you can see you're proudly donning your Cowboys colors. With the loss of Robson, is the Reed Marnie signature something that Cowboys fans were really crying out for, considering, Karisk and, some other, well, obviously Sony Luke's there now, but we didn't know that until like 2 weeks ago. But, Karisk is probably a few years away. Was this something that you were very happy with as a Cowboys fan, securing the likes of Reed Marnie to come back home?
Well, off the top of the dome, Robson did sign with the Roosters first, and then Reed Marnie signed with the Cowboys maybe a couple of months later. So, yeah, absolutely, this was a welcome addition. I don't want to turn this into a Cowboys 1.5 podcast, but Reed Marnie Reed Marnie has been fantastic for both Parramatta and Bulldogs, man. So, no, very happy to welcome up Reed Marnie back home to North Queensland.
Yeah. And those qualities of, being able to kick out a dummy half and whatnot will be a huge gain for the Cowboys and a bit of a loss for the Doggies. But we wish Bailey Hayward all the best, and he will probably benefit from that opportunity that he got at the back end of last year, even though it was unfortunately to the detriment of the team, in my opinion anyway. Anyway, let's move to the gains, Sam. And Cade Dykes, this is an interesting pickup here, Sam. Look, the poor bugger's been ruined with injuries these last few years, but he's shown when he is fit, he is a quality footballer and definitely NRL quality. I think this could be a good signing. He's definitely going to miss a bit of time, probably not going to be back till around April. But considering, Connor Tracy had some really good games, but he also had some pretty average ones in season 2025. So, I'm not saying it, but if Dykes comes back, plays some New South Wales Cup or something like that, and absolutely kills it, I wouldn't be. I don't think it's out of this world or out of this realm that we could see Cade Dykes come in and play fullback at some point this season for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. You agree?
Absolutely. But we definitely saw more good than bad from Connor
100%,
Tracy as well.
100%.
So Cade Dykes is really going to have to hit the ground running in reserve grade to be any shot of appearing in first grade this year.
Yeah. It could benefit in that origin period, when Karaz or something goes to, and Critter go to New South Wales duties, can come in and play fullback. They might play Tracy or something in the centers or in the halves or something like that on the sting. Who knows? Sean O'Sullivan, this is just a sort of like a depth signing, provide some depth in the halves department. He'll be also, provide a lot of experience. Sean O'Sullivan's been to plenty teams, the Warriors, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Panthers, and now the Dogs. Like, he's been to a few sides, Sean O'Sullivan. He's definitely a veteran that I think, the Bulldogs can benefit from having around, especially from my breakout player in season 2026 that we'll touch on shortly. Hopefully he gets an opportunity before Sean O'Sullivan, or he's not going to be doing much breaking out at all. But yeah, I don't mind this signing. You've seen Sean O'Sullivan also come off the bench and play a bit of a 14 role there for the Dolphins in years gone by. So I don't mind this signing, but the main one, the big fish, Leo Thompson, massive signing for the Doggies. He's going to provide a real 1-2 punch with Max King, and I think this is the signing the Doggies needed. It was definitely when the news broke last season that, Leo Thompson was going to the Dogs. It was like, man, like, this is a big signing. This is nothing against Sam Hughes or any of the other Bulldogs forwards. but I think this is just a really good signing because it provides another big body that can help out Max King in the middle of the field. They've got great power on the edges with Preston and Kickow. Some versatile locks with Salmon and Mann. But I just think they missed this big body. You've got Curran and some other players that we will touch on as well. But there's some other forwards there for the Dogs, Saluka Feeder and whatnot. But Leo Thompson, I think, is a quality signing. A top, I'd say he's probably like a top 10 prop, I reckon, in the competition, or definitely close to it. This is a massive, massive addition for me. Increases that Dogs forward pack immensely. Sam, what are your thoughts on the gains for the Bulldogs in season 2026?
It is a very good signing. Leo Thompson definitely has some class about him for sure, but he made his debut back in 2022 and he's averaged about 19 games a season since 2022. And he's about 100 games in, maybe just a tick over or under, give or take 100 games in his career so far. So I was going to say that he brings experience, and I think that is true only just. I mean, 100 games isn't a truckload, but he's also done seriously well for the New Zealand Kiwis whenever he has been selected to play for them. So, yeah, he does bring that extra bit of experience that I would suggest that the Bulldogs were lacking in their prop department. Not their forward pack overall, because you've got the likes of a Kickow floating around in there. But this is definitely a good signing. It is a good signing, and I really hope that he has a injury-free 2026 campaign.
So that is the gains and losses, and Sam and I's thoughts on those gains and losses for the Bulldogs in season 2026. We're now going to move over to Sam's avenue of honor, let's call it, and he is going to talk about the train and trial squad and development list for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Sam, so when you are ready, my good friend, I will pass it to you, my friend, to go through this solid list. It's not our smallest, it's not our largest, but it's a good list of players, my friend.
Yep, for sure, man. Now I'm just going to bring up the list now. So, in my opinion, it isn't the best train and trial squad list that I've seen so far, but there is definitely two or three of them that I would suggest keep an eye out for. So a lot of these players, maybe half of this list, they have been a part of the very successful Jersey Flegg team that won back-to-back premierships they played in back-to-back grand finals, 2023 and 2024, 2024 being their more famous one. So let's go through the Jersey Flegg players that did win the premiership in 2024 and just missed out on finals in 2025. First of all, we've got Logan Spinks. He is a second row player. We have Tay Cochrane. He is a fullback, and listening to his interviews that he's given to NITV and seeing that Gus, he's going to pump up everyone, but he does say that he's very, very excited about the prospect and the trajectory of Mr. Cochrane here. Yeah, I do too. His highlights and the way that he speaks, he's come from Taree for the opportunity, and he is a very impressive young man. And with Connor Tracy, I think, off contract at the end of this year, Tay Cochrane has a fairly big 2026 campaign ahead of him in whatever grade that he is selected to play, whether it be Jersey Flegg or if he's going to get upgraded in the New South Wales Cup. It remains to be seen. So Tay Cochrane could be the fullback of the future, unless if Cade Dykes, of course, doesn't take the bull by the horns. We've also got Mr. Joseph Tierpal. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He was the halfback that steered the Bulldogs to the 2024 premiership in the Jersey Flegg. Going into Amon Fitzgibbon. Yes, Fitzgibbon. He is the son of Craig Fitzgibbon, Sharks coach, and he is coming from the Illawarra Steelers. And the Steelers did make the finals last year, but unfortunately got knocked out in week 1 of the finals. He is a taller, skinnier sort of a fella in at halfback. So that's Amon Fitzgibbon coming from the Steelers. And I've saved this name until last. And I think Dor is going to agree with me on this. Mr. Jack Underhill has the raps on him from Gus Gould. And I just said Gus Gould will rap everybody, but legitimately, Phil Gould says that he, along with Jack Todd, is the brightest young prospect out at Belmore. Mr. Jack Underhill was born in Queensland up on the Sunshine Coast. He is signed until 2028, and he not only won the Jersey Flegg Grand Final, he was also the man of the match in that Grand Final as well. Jack Underhill maybe headed for a first grade debut in 2026. He's right there on the cusp. We're going into some other players now, what more so away from Jersey Flegg. Apologies about this pronunciation. Sasaya Alatini, he is a second row player. He did play in the 2023 Jersey Flegg Grand Final, but I believe he had a bit of an injury-affected 2025 campaign. Now we're going into some more familiar names here. And the first one, Dor, he knows very well after last season. Fletcher Baker, once a Rooster, then a Bronco, and now he's a Bulldog on a train and trial list. Baker had not an inconsistent year due to his form, but just trying to make a stacked Brisbane Broncos team in 2025. So he might see some first grade in 2026 come Origin time, or touch wood, there might be injuries, as in no injuries, hopefully not for the Bulldogs fans. We've also got AJ Jones. He is a second row player. I'm going to try to pronounce his name here. Aliko Lasimi Jones. He is a second row player. He was the 2022 Canterbury SG Ball Player of the Year. He has played at all levels for the Canterbury Bulldogs since he was signed up as a young fella at 17 years old back in 2017. I think that's what his age. I don't think that's right, but back in 2017 he signed with the Bulldogs, and he hasn't left, and he's he's on a training trial here with the Bulldogs in 2026. And going into the last couple of names here, Gordon Cham Kum Tong, coming from Manly. He did make his first grade debut with Manly, and this could be a little bit more of an important signing than first realised, because in my opinion, while Hayward is a good footy player and at hooker, and Kurt Mann can do a job, they don't really have a standout utility player that can exclusively play hooker, to the best of my knowledge anyway. So Gordon Cham Kum Tong might play some first grade if just a youthful hooker could come in instead of having Kurt Mann come in and play hooker. Not saying he can't, just maybe it would be preferable to have a younger body play some hooker when the opportunity, or maybe Jake Turpin as well, of course, yes.
Yeah.
And then the last player. And then the last player that we're going to make mention of, this fella is on a train and trial contract, but he's going to be playing for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs New South Wales Cup side, Mr. Jethro Rinakama. Rinakama impressed the ever-living daylights out of not just me, but everybody else. I think Jethro Rinakama held his own magnificently in that game against the Melbourne Storm in week 1 of the finals. I can't wait to see him again in 2027. Not saying that we won't see him in 2026, but that would mean that some injuries have occurred, or maybe he's absolutely killing it in reserve grade. But Jethro Rinakama is a very exciting young talent, a very, very impressive young man. So all in all, it's not a bad list. It's not one of my favorite lists that I've seen so far, but I think you and I agree that Jack Underhill is the main young man to keep an eye on in 2026. He is right there knocking on the door. And the other players that I would suggest, I mean, yeah, Jethro Rinakama, yes, hopefully so. Tay Cochrane, look out for him in reserve grade or Jersey Flegg again, what have you. I really like the look of Tay Cochrane just quietly. So, I would say that Rinakama, Jack Underhill, and Tay Cochrane would be those names to really look out for in 2026 across all grades at the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam. Underhill, very, very special talent as well as Cochrane. So, yeah, I think they're the two real youngsters that we haven't actually seen that I'd be, keeping my eye out for if I was a Bulldogs fan. Rinakama's definitely, I think, going to play at some point for the Bulldogs when he is back from injury. I think Gordon Chan Kum Tong could actually play a lot sooner than we all think. I don't know how Haywood is going to go at hooker, and I don't think if it works, I honestly think I was sorry to interrupt there, Sam, when you were talking about Turpin, but I feel like Chan Kum Tong could actually be higher than Turpin in the pecking order. And if, this Haywood experiment doesn't work out at hooker, that, this acquisition of Gordon could be massive and he could play a bit of first grade. So I think the likely name is obviously Renakama and Chan Kum Tong to play first grade, but the youngsters to really look out for is definitely Cochrane and Underhill, like you said before, Sam. But let's keep moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move to the draw. Everyone's favorite part, including myself. Now, let's look at it. Let's analyze it, Sam. The Dogs will be the biggest benefactors of the teams heading to Vegas with their bye in round 2, which gives them a lovely extra time to recover, or instead of recovering, enjoy the lovely sights and scenes of Vegas and continue their campaign strongly after this good, well-deserved break. They should have no problem starting their season as strongly as they did in 2025, as they face 3 of last year's bottom 4 sides, all inside the first 5 rounds, Sam. Now, the teams that they play twice: the Eels, the Raiders, the Tigers, the Storm, the Rabbitohs, the Dragons, the Panthers, and the Broncos. So, Raiders, Panthers, Broncos, Storm. So there's 4, and then they've got the Eels, the Tigers, the Rabbitohs, and the Dragons. So they've got a pretty good list, I'd say. 4 stronger teams, but do we think the Raiders go as well as they did in 2025? I don't think so, especially with the loss of Fogarty, but we will touch on the Raiders in an upcoming podcast. But yeah, pretty good list for teams that they play twice. Yes, they've got some strong ones, but they do have some good ones as well. The teams that they play once, Sam, are the Knights, Cowboys, Dolphins, Sharks, Seagulls, Titans, Warriors, Roosters. Their buys are round 2, like I discussed before, Sam, round 15, and then round 18. So theirs is a bit different. They've got that one early buy, then those 2 buys in and around that origin period there. So they've got basically round 19 all the way to 27 plus finals straight, unless they win, obviously, the first week of finals and they are finishing inside the top 4. So, look, verdict, Sam. It's a very favorable start to the season for the Bulldogs, but the NRL AI has not made it easy for the Bulldogs to prove that they are genuine title contenders. And I think this segues beautifully into how you always dissect these draws, Sam. And the reason the NRL hasn't made it easy is what you're about to tell everyone, especially those Bulldogs fans. Why has the NRL not made it easy? Let's have a look at the run home, my friend.
The run home to the finals starts in round number 20, like it does for every other side. And looking at the Bulldogs' run to the finals gave me heart palpitations just quietly. So it starts with a Saturday night game against the West Tigers. Say what you will about the Tigers, but they're going to be just as dangerous as ever. And the Tigers caused an upset against the Bulldogs late in 2025. They're still at home. They take on the New Zealand Warriors. They're then away back-to-back games against the Melbourne Storm and the Sydney Roosters, both on a Friday night. Round number 24, I expect to see a much improved South Sydney Rabbitohs. They are going to be taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs at Accor Stadium. In my opinion, with all due respect to this club, the St. George Illawarra Dragons have selected to take a home game to Allianz Stadium, and they will host the Bulldogs on that night on a Saturday night. I think that is the easiest team that the Bulldogs will face in this run home to the finals. And then round 26 and round 27, goodness me, they are away to the Penrith Panthers for a Friday night game out there at CommBank Stadium, and it finishes their home and away regular season at Accor Stadium Thursday night footy against the Brisbane Broncos. They take on the gauntlet just about. The West Tigers and the Dragons are the two easiest teams inside that, but besides those two teams, they're taking on the heavyweights inside that run home to the finals, Door. And I don't, it's only just not the hardest run to the finals, but that's a bottom three run home to the finals since we've seen I've seen, and since we've started doing these podcasts, mate. That is a very difficult run home.
Yeah, very, very, very tough run home, Sam, and that's probably like what I was alluding to is, they've got a really good start to the season, but the NRL hasn't, made it easy for the Dogs, you know, to finish, in that top 8 or in the top 4, or, to prove that they're genuine title contenders with that run home. You've got 1, 2, 3, 5 top 8 teams from last season in that run home. So very, very tough run home. But let's have a look a bit more into the stats, Sam. So, pardon me, games played against the 2025 top 8 and bottom 9 teams. So the Doggies play the top 8 teams from 2025 11 times, the top 4 6 times. They play the bottom 9 13 times, and they play the bottom 4 6 times. They have 1 5-day turnaround, 6 6-day turnarounds, and 15 7+ day turnarounds. So not too bad at all. It's not outstanding. That start is pretty good, I'm not going to lie. And the middle part of the season's not too bad either. This draw would have been an A if it wasn't for the finish, the run home. For me, I've got it at a B, B plus for the Bulldogs. As I said, it would have been A, and it would have been a lovely draw. But the problem is that run home. That run home, if you look at the 3 blocks that I've got on that graphic, the first block, the second block look good. Then it gets to the third block, and you're like, oh, man, like Sam alluded to, you've only got, the Dragons, and we don't know what the Rabbitohs is going to be like if they can stay healthy in 2025. And look, the Dragons could be good as well. We don't know what we're going to get in season 2026. We can only go off from what we saw in 2025. So, look, very tough draw. I'd say not very tough finish to the season, but not overall pretty good draw for the Doggies. Just a very tough run home. So BB plus for me, Sam. And then their trial games. So they take on the Cowboys, and that is as soon as next week. By the time this podcast comes out, it will be the week of. So you've got the Cowboys and Newcastle in rounds 1 and 2 of the trial games, and then they head over to Vegas, baby, and they get to work. Sam, do you think that the Doggies are going to field their better team against your mob, the Cowboys, in round 1, or do you think that they'll likely field the better side against Newcastle?
I have a feeling that all 4 teams are going to go their youth and then bring in their first graders in the second game for their trials, man. So I think we're going to see some really young talent coming up next weekend. I do want to just point out some of the other highlights and another tricky period here for the Bulldogs. So from round number 7 until round number 11, they've only got one home game in the space of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. So they're away to their most heated rivals, the Parramatta Eels. Then they're away to the Broncos up at Suncorp Stadium, and this is turning out to be a traditional, or not traditional, but it is turning out to be an annual thing where Broncos and Bulldogs will play each other at Suncorp on Anzac Day Eve. So that is a highlight besides the Las Vegas games. They then host the North Queensland Cowboys, and then they're at Suncorp Stadium back-to-back weeks. So in the space of 1 month, they've got 3 trips to Suncorp Stadium. But I am assuming that round 10 and 11 against the Dolphins and the Sharks up at Magic Round, I imagine they're just going to stay the entire fortnight up there in camp for Magic Round coming up for the clash against the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. So just a couple of more highlights there for the Bulldogs. That Anzac Day Eve seemingly is going to become an annual thing against the Broncos up at Suncorp. And then they've got 3 trips to Suncorp in the space of a month.
All right, that is the Bulldogs 2026 draw. Now, this is probably the longest award of injuries or concerns that we have from any club leading into the 2026 campaign. Now, the 2 names at the top, we're not exactly sure what their injuries are, but there has been, look, Phil Gould's really good with his time answering fans' questions on X in like a Q&A session. He'll like spend like an hour a day or whatever going through like Bulldogs fans or people's questions and responding to them. Now, Leo Thompson and Jacob Kiraz, I think Leo Thompson's doing a bit better than Jacob Kiraz as per the bracket section. So, look, they both look like they're going to be ready for round 1. Leo Thompson looks to be heading a bit better. He's looking like it's Phil Gould was saying it's hopeful that he should be right to play in that All-Stars clash, the Maori All-Stars versus the Indigenous All-Stars. But Kiraz is looking like it's hopeful that he is available for the second trial for the Bulldogs. So is that painting a picture for something that we're going to see what you said, Sam? There were some youngsters in the first game and then potentially a full strength or, close to full strength team in the second trial for a bit. Not sure. Mitchell Woods is he's injured his hamstring, low grade hamstring injury. He's looking like he'll return in time for round 1. But look, I only see Mitchell Woods playing throughout like the origin period, or if something happens to one of the halves out of Galvin or Burton. Yeah, Cade Dykes that we talked about that they'd got from Cronulla, he's not going to be back till April due to bad patella tendon injury, Sam, which saw him obviously miss basically all of last year. So, yeah, he should be back for Doggies around April. Jack Todd, we haven't got much info on Jack Todd, apart from that he had ankle surgery. From what Gus and the people out of the Bulldogs are saying is that he's progressing well. We'll take that progressing well, as it looks like he's probably going to play round 1, but we haven't got that, set in stone. So if he's progressing well, he's there for all the, the photos and whatnot. Hopefully it's good news for Jack Todd. Do I see him being named for round 1? No, but hopefully he can feature again in the Bulldogs 2026 campaign, like we saw fleetingly last season. Then the last man is Jethro Rinakama. He's injured his shoulder, had shoulder surgery after sustaining the injury in the Pack Champ/Bowl. And he's looking like a return in April to May. So a fair few names there, Sam, for the injury ward that we've had to take into consideration when naming our teams. And that's what we're going to do right now, my friend. So at the back, I've got Connor Tracy. On the wings, I've got the very funny podcast superstar, Marcelo Montoya and Jacob Kiraz. I've got Bronson Sherry and Stephen Crichton in my centres. Matt Burton and Lachlan Galvin are the halves. Max King and Leo Thompson are the props. Bailey Haywood is my hooker. Got to give him the first crack after what happened last year. Kickow and Preston, quality. A quality second row. Don't need to speak more about them. And we've got Jamin Salmon at lock for me. I won't call him his other name that Ricky Stewart likes to call him, but we've got him there at lock. We've got Kurt Mann, great man to have off the bench. You see what I did there, Sam? Very, very classy. Josh Curran, Satili Tupanua, and Harry Hayes to really bring some impact and fire off the bench. Tupanua was great, I thought, in season 2025. Yes, he got injured and missed a bit of time, but I thought he was great. Harry Hayes, I think, will be even better this season than he was last year. And Josh Curran, while it will be his last year in the blue and white, with him going over to Perth, I think he is an outstanding proposition, can play in the middle, on the edge, or at lock. A great man to have in your team. I've gone with a bit of youth. He is my breakout player. You will see me talk about him after Sam goes through his team list. But Mitchell Woods, look, the raps out of Bulldogs on this kid is exceptional and very loud that it can't be ignored. So for me, I think if there's, I talked about it earlier on, the continuity and the fluency between the halves and the combination between Galvin and Burton. If things don't go well, and we saw how Burton can play in the centres or whatnot, we could see a bit of a shift in the back line. I think Burton and Galvin will work it out, but I think that Mitch Woods isn't far away from NRL action at all. I've got Sam Hughes in jersey 19. Look, Sam Hughes has been great for the Dogs. I just unfortunately can't find a spot for him. And then the last man, the man they got, who was a 2025 gain for the Bulldogs from the Red V, Finay Latu. Now, before I pass it to you, Finay Latu, the reason I've put him here over some other names, Saluka Fafita and whatnot, is Gus Gould and the Bulldogs, and word out of the Bulldogs, is Finay Latu has been training the house down. He is looking in premium shape, Sam. And from what I was saying before about the Bulldogs and big forwards, this could be the one that I think could come in and feature. He was very close to me for being there. I don't know how quick the Dogs are going to go to him, but in the long term of things, I think he is going to be a quality footballer. And the Dogs have got him really firing in shape after, a very unhappy exit out of St. George Illawarra there, Sam, for Finay Latu. So that is my 20 players for round one for the Vegas clash against the Dragons for the Bulldogs, Sam. Let's go into your round one team for that clash, my friend.
No worries, man. It's exactly the same. 1 down to 17. That's who I think should play in Vegas. 1 down through to 17. And No, what, 18 and 20, mate. That's it, bro. Great minds think alike. We're exactly the same.
Any thoughts that you want to give about any players or anything like that? Maybe a
I
little
will
sneak
save
peek.
that. I will save that for my ladder predictions part, mate.
All right, my friend, or maybe your breakout players is what you meant. And now we move to the breakout player. I said Finay Latu was very close, but I just had to put this, man. It was very hard. Again, to it in the last couple of podcasts that we've done for these very big established clubs that finished 2025 in the top 8, top 4, etc. But Mr. Woods is my breakout player. The noise is just too much to ignore, Sam. And I don't need to go into it, with the half struggles that we saw in 2025 once, Sexton, Sexton was fixing or helping the rectify the issue, but he's no longer there. And largely probably because of the raps coming from the Bulldogs on Mr. Woods. Look, there is sparing information on Mitch Woods, but we do know he's a young player, only 19 years of age. He's played 9 games in the New South Wales Cup. And for a half to score 4 tries in 9 games, I think speaks volumes of the quality player. Yes, the win-loss percentage isn't the best, but 9 games, he's very raw, but the noise is very loud. I hope that he gets a good opportunity in season 2026. It was very hard for me to pick someone. And yes, like probably Finay Latu might play a bit more due to, being a forward. But I feel like if there's an injury to Galvin and Burton, I hope that is not the case. But if it does come, I think this man has to be given the first crack over, Sean O'Sullivan or whatnot. I think it's got to go to Mitch Woods for his for him to have a real crack and, sort of, not say silence the noise, but prove that the noise was definitely, valid, that this noise was valid and this guy deserves a crack of first grade and he's going to be, a half for the Bulldogs for many years to come. You think about it, they moved on Joseph O'Neill, Sam. They've moved on Sexton. They've moved them on. Yes, they got Galvin, but largely because of Mitchell Woods. So I think he's going to have a crack and sort of break out and then sort of, say, yeah, this noise was wanted, was valid. And that he's going to, take his opportunity, you know, very, very well in season 2026 if he gets the chance. So, look, as I said, very challenging to find a breakout player. But for me, look, Finay Latu was close, but I went with Mitchell Woods, and I wish him the utmost. I think, the utmost respect, and I hope he has a really good 2026 campaign, whether it be in New South Wales Cup or the NRL, Sam. But I'll pass it on to you. Mr. Harry Hayes, Sam, is your breakout player for season 2026, my friend. Take it away.
He played 23 games in 2025. A lot of people, including yourself, Dor, said that Harry Hayes broke out in 2025. I think it was a year where maybe some people got caught wind of how exciting this fella is. A few years ago, maybe a little bit more than a few years ago, but Harry Hayes was a winger about 4 or 5 years ago, and he's turned into a sprinting massive muscle, bro. He is so impressive, this young man, Harry Hayes, and really had a strong end to the back of the year as well. He averages over 100 running meters, or averaged over 100 running meters in 2025 throughout 23 games, and his tackle efficiency is upwards of 90%, just a bit over 90%. If he can stay healthy, I think that there's a bit of X factor about Harry Hayes. He's so big. He runs the ball really well and is a good line runner too. Has a little bit of toe. He's still rather young, so he's still got some
I
toe
agree.
in his legs, man. So yeah, I really like Harry Hayes to explode even more so than what he did in 2025, man. Very, very exciting young man is Mr. Harry Hayes.
Yeah, I really like Harry Hayes, and I do agree. I think he'll be a lot better than he was, or well, he'll improve on his stats from the 2025 campaign, Sam, which was a very strong campaign for Harry Hayes. But yeah, look, a winger now and playing in the middle. I think if he can also improve his offloads and second phase play as well, I think that will be massive in getting him, into that status that you're talking about, Sam. But yeah, quality player, Harry Hayes. And yeah, I do think he's going to go even bigger and better in season 2026. Now, it's time to talk about some logos for the second time in this series of going through club previews. We touched on the Broncos' new logo. Now we're touching on the Bulldogs' new logo, Sam. What are your thoughts on the Bulldogs' new logo, bro?
I nearly threw up when I first saw it when it was unveiled a few months ago, to be perfectly honest with you, mate. But then I'm still struggling with it now. But then the Brisbane Broncos came out and said, "Hold me beer," and I nearly friggin' died. I
Jeez.
think this is a little bit better than the Broncos logo, in my opinion. Maybe maybe a clockwork orange is happening to me right now, bro, that I've just looked at it long enough now and I just accept it and then therefore default like it. But it's not their best ever logo. It is not one of the best logos in the NRL. It's just way too cartoony. And whilst I do prefer it over the Brisbane Broncos logo, I think this is a massive misstep by the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, bro.
I do agree, even though I did gasp and say a remark, but I do agree. I think this is better than the Broncos logo. Both have grown on me. Uh, don't know. I just think it's mid. It's just meh. Like it like it's got definitely a bit more design and a bit more, like it actually looks like a bulldog. And but like the blue and white of the dogs, like the only blue on the logo is just um down the bottom there. Uh so on the collar basically with the CB. Look, I don't know. For some reason I don't like hate it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't mind it. And yeah, I do agree it's better than the Broncos logo. But I don't know. I feel like this could grow on me more. I don't know. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's because I love dogs, but it's just yeah. I can see this logo growing on me a bit. But I would have liked to have seen more blue, considering the blue from the Bulldogs is the primary color, and to see it used very little on the logo, I think is just yeah, it's a bit of a miss. Like you said, Sam, like you look at the Broncos logo, even though it's worse than that, at least that there's the colors are very bright and showing for what the Broncos stand for with that
Yep.
maroon and yellow.
Yeah, a bit more blue would have been good. But honestly, I don't think I've given a great rating or review to any of these new modernized logos, to be perfectly honest with you, Dor. I think all these new logos that are coming out to try and be better for the new age and for social media, yeah, I don't like any of them that have come out. What have we had? We've had the Gold Coast Titans, the Raiders, the Bulldogs, Manly. I think Manly might take the cake for me personally, as far as the best modernized logo over the past few seasons. But all these have missed basically for me, and this just looks like AI as well. It really, it's just way too cartoony looking, and it might look angry, but it's not. It's not really intimidating to me, man. You know, I think this is a massive misstep from the Bulldogs, but it's not the worst logo in the NRL at the moment, man, but not by much.
Unfortunately, Sam, you just have to accept with where the world is going at the moment, and
I
that
bloody
is
don't, because if that Cowboys logo changes or modernizes, I fear what the hell that could friggin' look like. But anyway, it's not Cowboys 1.5, it's Bulldogs 1 podcast right now.
well, the draws are being done by, like, you know, AI is being helped with the draws. AI is definitely helping with logos.
The
That's
NRL
just
should
the way.
contact you and I, and we will do it for free, and we will nut it out in 1 week, bro. We will give the greatest draw of all time if the NRL give us the reins. We'll do it for free, bro, and it'll be the greatest draw of all time.
I'm not saying no, I don't mind it, but look, unfortunately, a bit of a miss for the new logo for the Dogs. Don't really hate it, but we don't really like it at all. But it's definitely better than the Broncos logo. Now, let's move to the jerseys. As you can see, the new logo is there on the jerseys. We've got new home and away jersey for the Doggies. And then the Vegas jersey, I'm going to go on a tangent here, I reckon. Why the bleep would you put the names on the home kit and say that's your Vegas jersey? Like, honestly, you look at the Bulldogs, what they're doing at the moment with all this sick Vegas style merch with like training gear and run out shirts, captain on shirts and stuff. And then you just look like it. Where's the jersey? And the only thing they've added is the numbers and the names. Like, are you serious, Sam? Like, this is nearly Newcastle Knights level of shocking. In regards to the Knights have not done anything until the other day where they finally released a shirt. Oh God, that really just looks like a bloody white t-shirt with some blobs of colors on it. I'm not gonna lie. This is an absolute failure from the Bulldogs, an absolute failure. The club is massive. The Doggies are huge. They broke records for crowds in season 2025 for home games, regular season games. And then the club goes out, they get a new logo, and then they put out this pile of shit with the utmost respect and just use the home jerseys for the Vegas kit. I just, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, the whole point of going over to Vegas, in my opinion, is you buy into it. It's a very special experience. You go over there and you give your fans something to remember the experience. Yes, jerseys on the names and numbers or names on the back of jerseys is something that I think should be a regular thing. I think that is, you know, you look at other sports, look at NFL, you look at NBA, you know, that's something that I think the whole Australian sport is missing in regards to this. Is like, you know, I can go and buy, you know, a Michael Jordan jersey. I can go buy a LeBron James jersey. I can go and buy a Giannis jersey, you know, or I can go, for example, football, Premier League. I can go and buy a Jokeres jersey. I can buy a Ronaldo jersey, like, you know, and it's got the number and got the name on it. Here in Australia, we can't do that. Yes, you can get, sometimes you can go to like bring your jersey to the ground and they have people like there that will do it for you. But, you know, sometimes, like, I think the Maroons, for example, like I've got a Kalen Ponga Maroons jersey, which has got the number and the name on the back of it. But like, it's very poor quality. in regards to the print. And like, for example, like my Ponga name and number is like peeling off the back of it because I've worn it a fair bit. So I just really hate this. Look, if I'm just, let's forget about the Vegas thing and let's focus on the home and away jersey. I really like the Laundy Hotels integration. I love like the Waddle and the other stuff. Like the sponsor integration on the Bulldogs jersey is great. However, that V at the bottom is disgusting. I don't understand why it needs to be there. Like, it looks better on the home kit than it does on the away kit. But I don't see the point of having it there. Like, it definitely looks better on the home kit. And I think of the two, I think I prefer the home kit because I think that the white has been poorly used on the away kit. There's not enough of it. Or in the fact of that. The other thing that actually, now that I look at it closely, is like that a design flaw? Like, why is the V at the top blue, but then at the bottom white? It's the same on the home kit. It's white at the top and then blue at the bottom. Like, it's such a simple thing. I just love blue and white. Blue's my favorite color, apart from State of Origin time when it comes to that time of year. But it's, as you can see, I'm wearing blue. But, oh, man, it's just such a simple thing. I don't mind the home jersey, but I just don't really like the whole V concept and whatnot's going on there. And then I think there's not enough white on the away jersey. I think the blue should be also in the V, like the home jersey. So, yeah. Don't get me started on the Vegas jerseys for the Bulldogs. And look, I was pretty disgusted with Newcastle's efforts or lack of or none in regards to their jerseys. But yeah, this is a real disappointment, I think, for the Bulldogs fans as a whole, man, who I know love their team so much, turn up and would have loved to have rocked a special Vegas edition jersey for their 2026 venture over to the States, man. So, yeah, like the sponsor integration, love the colors, obviously, the blue and the white, but that Vegas jersey, and there's issues with both the home and away jerseys. But if I've got to pick one, the home jersey's not the worst. I just don't like the V part of it. Sam, what are your thoughts on the jerseys, my friend?
The home jersey's fine. I don't like that away jersey. I really don't. Too much blue, as you say. I just don't like it. I really don't. The V is always, not always, but the V's been around a fair bit throughout Bulldogs history. But the way that it's done here is very different. And then I'd say that the Bulldogs Vegas jersey does miss. I don't know if there's any finer details, like a die, like a roll of the dice, like a die hidden somewhere in the jersey. But no, I mean, a number 4 Crichton jersey is going to be one of the most popular jerseys bought, or maybe the most popular jersey bought out of everything. At least I predict anyway. But in saying that, though, and shout out to him, Mr. Winston Neville has got the Dog Vegas jersey, Welcome to Dog Vegas shirt that he's promoting and has successfully linked up officially with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. And I think that is probably going to be the hottest selling product for the Bulldogs for Las Vegas. So much credit and love to Mr. Winston Neville there for that. But yeah, it's fine, the home jersey. And really, I know you probably wanted a bit more, like maybe a blackout sort of a jersey with hints of blue and white. for Las Vegas may have been cool, like neon blue sort of stuff against like a black background. Would have been nice, but yeah, that away jersey, I do not like, bro. I really don't. But everything else, man, is just is fine, bro.
I hate that they could market this as a home, a Vegas jersey, just because of the numbers and the name on the back. Like, I'll always look at that and say, "Oh yeah, number 4 Crichton on it, cool." Like, it's a home jersey. It's not a Vegas jersey. It's just all they did is add numbers on the back. That should be a default. Not numbers, sorry, names on the back. So yeah, sorry, I could go on a real tangent here. I do really love what Winston Neville's done there with that Vegas training shirt or Vegas apparel sort of thing. I just wish he did something with them for the jerseys, because it is a real shame. I really would have liked all teams to be going over there to be rocking, the jerseys. I know you're not the biggest fan, but I don't mind the Cowboys Vegas jersey. And I absolutely adore the Dragons Vegas jersey. Just so simple. It's the same with the Dogs. And just lastly, I wasn't hating on the V. I think the V's fine in regards to, like, the Bulldogs and using the V in their jerseys. I just think the use of it on this 2026 range is just wrong. Like, it's just not like the old Bulldogs V jerseys that we're used to seeing, Sam. So yeah, don't hate the V, just don't like how it's used on this. Anyway, let's continue. In more positive news, rather than me going on a tangent, I can go on a tangent in a good way with my 2026 ladder prediction for the Bulldogs. And yes, it is a top 4 position yet again for the Bulldogs. Look, solid draw. It's going to be a challenging finish to the season yet again for the Doggies, but surely the reason I've got them in the top 4 is I can see in my mind that this Galvin and Burton combination will come to life. It will definitely work. If it doesn't, well, I think you're probably more likely with a Sam result. Reason I think that they definitely deserve to be in the top 8 and the top 4 is the squad depth. Their back line. Look, you look at the depth that they've got. They've got like players like we touched on. You've got Woods and O'Sullivan there in the halves. Yes, Woods very unproven, but O'Sullivan's showing that he can do a job there. You've got quality backline players. Tuala's not there in that round 1 team list. Pardon me, that Sam and I have named. You've also got Rinakama there that's due to come back from injury. So there's some quality names there. You've got Dykes as well that can come in and potentially help out at fullback, after April. Forward pack is, the forward pack is one of the best packs in the NRL. It is really versatile as well as now large. They needed this Leo Thompson signing, and I think the Bulldogs, all they need to do is, this is probably, I don't really need to say too much because it's very simple. They defend well. If they defend like they did last season, they're definitely making the top 4. If the reason they will make the top 4 for me is what I said before, I think the halves combined and the Dogs score more points in season 2026 than they did in season 2025. So for me, I find the Galvin and Burton partnership doesn't have to really flourish, but work and get that continuity and fluency between the two of them, work together. Feed those star outside players because yes, Connor Tracy's not the best fullback, but you're looking at one of the best wingers in the comp in Kiraz, one of the best centers in the comp in Crichton. Sherry was outstanding last season, and he's only going to get better. And Montoya was great as well in that 2025 campaign. So for me, I think they've got to start the season hot and then just do a bit better than they did last season, and they should be in the top 4. It's obviously very difficult. I did leave the Panthers out, but their draw was absolutely historically bad. So top 4 for me for the Doggies, Sam. And yeah, the Doggies will have another good year for their fans. Thank God, because hopefully they're going to do well on the field, at least looking in not the best jerseys, as you heard my rant before. But I think they take care of the Dragons nicely in Vegas and then enjoy a lovely week off and then get into their work. And then it's just, it's going to be the difference between you and I think, is going to be come that finals, run from round 20 onwards. How many of those games can they win, Sam? I expect them to win more than half. So, but unfortunately not against the Broncos. Anyway, let's move on to your prediction, Sam, for the Bulldogs. So you've got them in the top 8, my friend.
Yeah, man. The distraction that Lachlan Galvin caused was crippling to the Bulldogs halfway through 2025. Matt Burton played centre a couple of times, was forced to play centre a couple of times throughout the second half of 2025 as well. Just the environment and the atmosphere was flipped upside down, including the Reid Marnie situation. Now they've had this entire preseason to go all guns blazing, rectify things, smooth things over. So there's not an excuse for Lachlan Galvin. I'm being pretty harsh on Mr. Galvin here. Like, despite everything that we've studied, despite everything that we've heard about Galvin and all that, he's on a big wicket now, bro. He's had a few years in first grade. He's got to live up. I know he's a young fella. He's a very impressive young man. I like what I see, bro. He's a very talented young man. But Jesus, he has got to provide. And unfortunately, that friggin' media spotlight is still going to be very, very bright. That's probably going to be the main goddamn storyline throughout Vegas, to be honest with you. So spoilers for 360. I won't be friggin' watching it. Also, you alluded to it there, Connor Tracy. He's got a massive year ahead of him too. He is off contract at the end of this season, and there was more good about him than there was bad in 2025. Some great defensive plays from him, try-saving moments from him, but he's got to maintain the rage and be even better. Karaz is Karaz. He's going to be very, very close to making an Origin debut. The forward pack, yes, is great. It's fine. It's just that the past 2 seasons in a row now, Dor, the Bulldogs have faded. And last year there was the Galvin and the Marnie excuse, and the year before they just naturally did. They just naturally did fade. So that, looking at the run to the finals, so that, and then looking at the run to the finals as well, gives me pause for concern, man. I think they will start like a house on fire, like they did in 2025. In 2026, I think they're going to be runaway favourites and runaway top 4 leaders inside the first half. But as we've mentioned a handful of times already, that run to the finals, bro, is no joke for this Bulldogs side. And the other question I have too, so their spine is okay. I just question Tracy and I question Bailey Hayward at hooker and the depth there at hooker. Yes, we've already named off the names in Turpin and Kum Tong, man, even at a pinch as well. But I just think half that spine, and I'm referring to the fullback and the hooker, they need to be operating on their best, on all cylinders. So the other question too is, and this will be a topic of discussion halfway through the year, is that despite still being contracted for 27, Matt Burton is allowed to talk to other clubs from November 1st. So that could be a distraction. There will be lots of chat about that. So that's something to keep an eye out for, is that Matt Burton on November 1st this season is allowed to talk to other clubs. So that will be fascinating. I think their defense will maintain the rage. That will get them inside the top 8. This was so difficult. Dor can attest to this. This was so difficult, and basically syncs up absolutely everything now for the rest of our podcast and for the rest of just for everything, man. So Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, also their run to the finals, while opposition wise is very tough, from round 19 until the very final round of the home and away regular season, they only leave Sydney one occasion, and that's to travel down to Melbourne to play at Amy Park, because besides that, it's a core and Allianz for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So opposition-wise, incredibly tough. Travel-wise, despite the one trip to Amy Park, it's pretty smooth there for the Bulldogs, and that will help them win more games in that run to the finals for sure. I think they just nab a spot inside the top 8, bro.
Yeah, I agree. I attest to what Sam was saying, and that it was very, very tough to finish, or well, basically finalize our position for the doggies, because it also, like Sam said, sort of put the rest of our predictions into place for us after doing the doggies. So look, both of us have got them finishing playing finals footy in season 2026. So thank you so much, doggies fans, and thank you so much to everyone that has been watching and following these series of podcasts that we've been doing thus far for these 2026 club previews. Thank you, Sam, for pardon me once again for showing up and doing a fine job. And we will be back in the next one. Your club could be next. And lastly, before Sam says thank you, is just we appreciate all the subscribes and follows on social media and YouTube. But if you guys can continue to do that, if you're watching this and haven't subscribed, or listening to this and you haven't subscribed to the All Out Club on YouTube or Spotify, or to Wobble and Jaw Sports on YouTube, please go ahead and do so. Same as if you don't follow us, you're liking our content and whatnot, or you're enjoying our podcast, feel free to go and give us a like on social media as well, on Instagram for and X for Wobble and Jaw Sports, and basically everything X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and whatnot for All Out. We're on All Out NRL on socials, All Out Club for YouTube, and Spotify for our media. So yeah, enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, guys.
And we will see you in the next one. Your club could be next. Thanks, guys. Bye.